Welcome to the Yappin podcast. I'm your host, Rafa. Let's start yapping. So last week, Ryan Clark came out and was irate and had his thong all bunched up because the media has not used the "shut up and dribble" uh, quote, bullshit on Nick Bosa. And so the difference between Nick Bosa and, let's say, Colin Kaepernick or LeBron James or a lot of these other guys is that all Nick Bosa did was put a hat on. He didn't come out and stop a national anthem. He didn't kneel for a national anthem. He's not having press conferences about it. He is not on social media talking about it the way LeBron James and Colin Kaepernick and some of the other athletes were. That's the difference. And he's trying to use it as, oh, well, it's because it's for Trump. Listen, look, if we look at the media, CNN, NBC, MSNBC, ABC, all those outlets, that is all leftist propaganda bullshit, right? So they're the ones who should talk about it. You should have just directly said, I have a problem that Fox News didn't use this, is what you really wanted to say. Now, you also said that the hat was divisive, and Ryan Clark, like all other famous people that want to sit here and lean left because they think it's cool or whatever, this Sunday, when Bosa dropped the Trump dance, that Trump dance was actually started by two other guys on his team. And then obviously they knew they were going to do it, and I'm sure they practiced it. But there were two other guys, and then Fred Warner, who we can say is probably the best defensive player on the planet, with the alive, with the exception of Ray Lewis, obviously still alive, but the best defensive player on the planet. And he also joined in. Last time I checked, the three dudes that joined in with Nick Bosa doing the dance, they were black. So it's only divisive when you guys talk about it and make it divisive. That is the thing. It's always people who don't vote for Trump or don't vote for Republicans that think everything is divisive. And that's a problem. And obviously Ryan Clark doesn't give a fuck who I am, but that's the reason I stopped watching this podcast, is because of the bullshit that he's been doing. I stopped about 8 months ago because of this type of rhetoric that he runs with. Like, you're an asshole. And just, by the way, off of that topic, you could never see Derrick Henry in any gap, anywhere, at any age in your fucking life. Derrick Henry at 11 years old would have ran your ass over too. You could have been a grown-ass man. That little dude could have been 11, and Derrick Henry still would have trucked your ass. So, but Ryan Clark, you are divisive. Get over it and just move forward. Stop dividing.
You have to move forward because I don't know, I'm not going to say the word, but it starts with a C and ends and it rhymes with booning. But that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. He's booning, and it's a word that rhymes with it because at the end of the day, if you want to go to it, where did black men vote this election cycle? Ryan Clark. Where did your own demographic vote this election cycle? At the end of the day, most of this election cycle, most of the people that share your demographic don't agree with you. And it's not divisive for them to vote for the people that they want to vote for. So Ryan Clark, respectfully, suck my dick as a black man.
I love it.
Yeah, we'll move on from his stupid bullshit.
We'll move on from Ryan Clark divisive.
Bullshit. Right. We'll go on to more inclusive things, as they like to say. So we'll go into, I got a little game for you, and it's Who You Got, Lane Kiffin edition.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah. We got to get into it.
I gets a big win, and all of a sudden we got to crown his ass on this show.
Crown it, yes.
All right.
Doing this today.
We'll acknowledge Lane today.
Yes, all right. So here we go.
What do you got?
Lane Kiffin or Mike Elko?
Lane Kiffin.
Ooh. Lane Kiffin or the great Urban Meyer?
No, Urban Meyer. Come on.
All right.
Urban Meyer was great everywhere he went.
Lane Kiffin
except for Jacksonville, by the way. He was great at the bars. There's no doubt about that. He's great at the bars.
Kiffin or the rising Kirk Cignetti, who has taken the Indiana Hoosiers to
Lane Kiffin, man. Them Hoosiers, dude. They the real fucking thing, bro. That's
All
it.
right,
Real thing. Not yet, anyways.
we will see. Lane Kiffin or Kalen DeBoer.
Oh, Lane Kiffin, easy. I mean, easy is easy.
Lane Kiffin or Lincoln Riley.
Lane Kiffin. Lincoln Riley.
What?
Coaching?
What?
Is he still
Lincoln Riley
coaching?
has been to multiple playoffs.
You keep saying multiple playoffs.
It's 3.
Like
You keep saying 1. He's been to 3.
he went to 3. He didn't go through he went to 3 with Oklahoma?
3. You got it, Rafa. You have to remember the quarterbacks he had. He had Baker Mayfield. He went to a playoff with Kyler Murray, and he
Oh,
went
but
to a
he didn't
playoff with
win any
Jalen
of those games.
Hurts.
And the thing
It
is, I
doesn't matter.
forget
He's
he
been
didn't
to
win any of those
3.
games. Yeah, in the Big 12, it was literally one team in the Big 12. It was him, and that was it. Because in the Big 12, when Oklahoma was good, Texas was falling by down. Like they were done, and nobody else was competing in that Big 12. That Big 12 was straight trash. This is the best the Big 12's been this year, and it's been a minute.
Are you sure? Because the Big 12 in multiple years with 4 teams got a team in, and this year with 12 teams, they're still going to get just 1 team in.
Yeah, but this year's more competitive. Like at least we have like 5 teams that can still win the fucking thing.
Yeah,
Before,
but they're getting an no. Here we go. They're getting an automatic bid. You can argue without that automatic bid, the Big 12 would not be getting a team in, period.
Well, BYU's in the top 12 right now.
Oh, well, okay, man. Let's. I don't know. We saw Florida State undefeated not get in last year. I would think that this year BYU undefeated would not get in.
Oh no, they're at 8 or 9 or 7.
I'm just saying. We saw that. We saw it.
That's early. Yeah, that was a whole different situation. It's a whole different situation. Not even the same thing. But
All
anyway.
right. Lane Kiffin or Ryan Day?
Oh, Lane Kiffin easy. Ryan Day can't win a big fucking game, man.
Okay. Lane Kiffin or Dan Lanning?
You know how I feel about Dan Lanning.
I know.
I don't like him, but I'm going to take Dan Lanning in this spot right here over Lane Kiffin.
I know you have this vendetta against Dan Lanning for some reason.
I don't know what it is either. It's probably fucking Oregon is a terrible state. But that's probably what it is. You could clip that 10 times.
Lane Kiffin or Sark?
Oh, man, Sark. Going to give the edge to Sark.
Wow. All right.
He's accomplished more.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, listen, real quick, let me backtrack to Ryan Day because people are going to talk shit when they see these lists, obviously. Ryan Day's gotten to a playoff, and which Lane has not. Lane's also dealt with Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. Ryan Day had to deal with no one. I mean, we're going to pretend that Harbaugh was big time until last year. Come on. Get the fuck out of here.
No, facts.
So
Lane Kiffin, and when Ryan Day had to meet a big coach, he failed every single time, almost.
For the most part, except for Harbaugh. But yeah.
All right. That's all I got for that portion of it.
Okay.
So yeah, just so we, give our sponsor Cut a little bit of love in between this. Make sure you go and download Cut in that description. Use the code Yappin, YAPPIN. It's visible on the screen and in the description. KUTT. It is an app you can download with your friends. You can bet against anybody. You can change the lines, change the money lines, change the spreads. You can change anything really, and you can bet on anything. If it has a verifiable income, you can bet it. And so go to Cut in the description. Ralph, you got anything more to say on Cut?
Cut is phenomenal. Listen, if you guys want to bet on a gender reveal, they will create that for you. You want to have it with your buddies, you can set it up. They'll do it for you. And so, dude, use Cut for gender reveals. Get your buddies out there. So, because everybody's got a card, and I'll sell you, I'll Venmo you. We know it's all bullshit because we know Howard's wife ain't gonna let him fucking lose $25 that you fucking chose that it was gonna be a they them when it was either only boy or girl. You fucked up. So make sure that you get on Cut, gender reveals, private, whatever you guys want. They can make it happen for you. But they also have it's like CJ said, it's peer to peer. So and you can bet with friends, you can bet with just randoms. There's a ton of bets. Every game, there's quarters. There's now second half bets. There's all sorts of stuff now. So they've expanded the app. You got to check it out. Cut, KUTT, and the promo code right here on the bottom is Yappin, and use that for your first bonus. You get a 10%.
Yes, sir. Moving on. We got to talk about that. We're not going to talk about the SEC, but the SEC is complete chaos. It is the most chaotic conference of any conference. And right now, they are looking at potentially having the top 6 teams all at 2 losses. And right now, they have 5 teams at 2 losses. So what's your take on the SEC chaos ranking?
Man, I mean, people are gonna hate like you and other people out there, but it's I want to say that the bottom teams aren't as bad as they've usually been. With the exception, I think Mississippi State, Mississippi State and Auburn.
But you look at Mississippi State; they're cover monsters.
No, they're covering because the line's like 30 sometimes. 24, 25, 21. I know. So they're competitive enough to stay in the games. I just think the bottom this year of the SEC, I think, is more competitive than we've seen in years past. And same, I think, in all conferences. We look at the Big Ten, and Illinois has been competitive.
UCLA.
UCLA has been competitive. They just beat Iowa. Minnesota. You saw Minnesota. I mean, Maryland's been in some, in games. Like there's teams that all these teams now, I think, are more competitive. And that's just what's making it tougher, I think, with the exception of even look at the Big 12. Like the Big 12 has like 6 teams that can still technically get in the playoff, by the way. Like they have like 6 teams with like 2 losses or 5 teams with 2 losses. So the Big 12, all conferences with the exception of the ACC, I think is bottom. The teams we thought weren't going to be as good have been very competitive. And since we're on the SEC, we have Vanderbilt. Kentucky's always competitive. South Carolina, you and I just talked about it before we got on. South Carolina 6-3. They're in the 7th spot in the SEC. Their 3 losses have come to LSU by 3, Alabama by 2, and then the only game that they actually got dominated was the Ole Miss game. But other than that, they beat Texas A&M, that's ranked at 15. They had dominated Texas A&M in that second half. They whooped on Vanderbilt this weekend, who's played Texas tough. They beat Bama. They beat Kentucky on the road. I like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt beat Virginia Tech early. Like Vanderbilt isn't the usual Vanderbilt, and and South Carolina, and then they lost at LSU. I think it was at LSU by 3. So they've been well in reach. I mean, if we look at the 2 games, LSU and Bama, that they lose by a combined 5 points. If that game goes either which way, we're looking at a team that's 8-1 in South Carolina that nobody thought they were going to be 8-1.
Right.
So I mean that's the bottom of the SEC is what's making it competitive. It's getting these guys on a week to week where we didn't usually see it. We always just thought, oh, Nick Saban's coming to town and everybody's just going to roll over, or Kirby's coming to town and everybody's just going to roll over, with the exception of Kentucky at Kentucky. But Tennessee as well, Florida we thought was going to be really bad. Florida's won some games and they battled in a lot of games. They were in the game against Georgia. They beat Tennessee. Like, I mean, it's going to be interesting because you have Tennessee and Georgia this week. Yeah. And if Georgia wins this game, and I already kind of did a little hypothetical on it. If Georgia wins this game, you have Georgia with 2 losses and Tennessee with 2 losses. Tennessee beat Bama, but Bama beat Georgia, and Georgia beat Tennessee. So I think the odd man out after this week, hypothetical I think Georgia, if they beat Tennessee, I think Georgia's in play in the playoff and Bama's in play. I think Tennessee's going to get screwed here at the end.
Really?
I believe so. If they lose to Georgia, I think they get screwed. But
yeah, that's crazy. So I had to do a little revelation because unfortunately I've tried to be as unbiased as possible.
It's tough for you.
And it's tough. It's tough when I'm looking at the bullshit ass SEC. And you're right. You're right. The bottom of the SEC, I look at Mississippi State, and we had a skin tone pick. My skin tone pick on 2 nobodies, Mississippi State covering, did hit. So make sure you check out 2 nobodies in the description. We're live on Wednesdays. We'll be live on Wednesday this week. But the bottom of the SEC is so competitive when you're looking at Mississippi State, when you're looking at Oklahoma, when you're looking at Florida, who has the toughest schedule in the country. And they just re-signed Dillon Napier because he's doing way better than expected. So the SEC is really competitive. It's chaotic. And I think right now you could say it's holding up the excitement of college football. Like there's a lot of excitement to go around it, but the SEC has that core excitement of it's giving us ranked games every single week.
Oh, every week. It doesn't
Yeah.
disappoint. Every
Nope.
week we have a ranked game in that conference. And I think, what did we count earlier? I think the top 7 teams, 8 teams
Top
in the
7
SEC,
teams. Yeah.
all ranked in the top 25. This week we got Missouri, South Carolina. So probably one of the loser will probably be out of the top 25 for probably not. They for sure will be out of the top 25.
Right. So let's get to ranking these 2-loss SEC teams.
Okay.
Just to break it down for you, it's Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, Missouri, and LSU. So
Okay, give
not
me
in
that list real
terms
quick. Georgia,
Ole Miss,
Bama.
Missouri, and LSU.
Oh, it's an easy list.
So in terms of who you think is best, who you not, what the rankings are, what is Rafa's ranking of the 2-loss SEC teams?
After this weekend, I'm gonna start from the bottom. I go Missouri at the bottom. I don't think they should be ranked in the top 25. They get South Carolina this week. We'll see how they fare. So I'll put Missouri at the bottom of this list, and it's only 5 teams, right? So we got Missouri at the bottom. We got LSU right under them at 4. We got Georgia at 3, Ole Miss at 2. They just beat Georgia pretty handily, and then Bama at number 1. I think Bama's the best of the 2-win teams in the SEC. So a big game, by the way, on Saturday for them. But Milroe had an awesome game, and that kind of just tested to what I don't like LSU from the beginning. I don't like Brian Kelly. I don't like Chip Kelly. I don't like the Eagles. I don't like any Kelly. Not R. Kelly, not Chip Kelly, not Brian Kelly. Like, it's just all bad. The only Kelly I like is Jim Kelly. That was it. So, but so LSU of the 2-loss teams in the SEC, I think they're the worst one.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Brian, I think LSU right now, I don't think Brian Kelly is on the hot seat this year, but I think LSU fans are looking at each other like, is this the right guy for this job? Like, we're losing. You see it. He's won 9 games in each of the seasons that he's been there. And he has a Heisman Trophy winner, but this is an LSU team that with Ed Ogeron won a national championship. Granted, they have the best roster ever, but they still with Ed Ogeron won a national championship. So they're a national championship thinking program.
Real quick, they had the second best roster ever, not the best roster ever, but go
ahead. Do you want to get into this now, sir?
You don't want to do it. It's 2001 Miami.
Won Miami. I knew you were going to say it.
It's not even close.
Okay,
it's not even close.
There's
Hall of Famers on that team, player.
Okay, brother. That second team played all of like 2-3 years ago. Not gonna be Hall of
Who's
Famers.
Playing tight end? Who's playing tight end for LSU?
They ran 5 wide.
They didn't have one.
These motherfuckers
had Jeremy Shockey and Kellen Winslow. How about the running backs? How about the backs? What do you want to do? We're not doing this shit tonight. I don't got enough time to do this shit with you tonight.
Because I need to prepare an argument because I think
you need to go prepare, motherfucker. Yes, don't forget too that Miami team was undefeated, motherfucker. Undefeated. That Miami team could have gone back to back. They got cheated by the refs, by the way. In that Ohio State game,
team,
in the
Rose Bowl. LSU team, if Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and all of those guys were juniors, they would have for sure gone back to back. That's a fact.
They had a phenomenal roster. But we'll go ahead.
I think I'll prepare that for next episode for sure. All right. Heisman Watch. We had our guy. I agreed with you after Ashton Jeanty went down, but now I'm back on the Ashton Jeanty train because Cam Ward took an L. And where do you stand on Cam Ward? We saw Jaden Daniels become the Heisman with 3 losses. Do you think that Cam Ward should lose any stock?
I didn't watch the game. So I can't say yes or no. I didn't watch the game. And so I know like Daniels' performance last year, for the most part, I watched probably 8 or 9 of the games. They were phenomenal. Cam Ward, I probably watched about 6 games so far. I think he's been great. It's a bad loss, and the media is putting more stock into the loss than like Caleb won the Heisman, and what do you have, 2 losses?
Correct.
Like, I don't know how much they're putting into the loss of this loss for Cam. I mean, listen, I know Jeanty and people want to love Jeanty, and he's probably going to break the record. Okay. It's the same problem that I have. And that's the thing. And his head coach proved that they're going for this record. Like him being in a game 42-10
But
2 weeks ago.
why does that matter to you though? Like his head coach is trying to promote his player to get a trophy. I don't have an
No,
issue with
that's
that.
yeah. When the game's 42-10, it kind of is because
Why?
because at 49-10, Cam Ward isn't in the game throwing fucking touchdown passes. That's the thing. So last year, Jaden Daniels needed those performances because his team was down because his defense sucked actual cock.
Well, Cam Ward
So
last week definitely needed to be in the game to win the game, and he couldn't do it.
yeah, no. He had a bad performance. I'm sure. I didn't watch the game. I'm sure 100% he had a bad performance. I didn't see it. So, but right now, if we can come off of Cam Ward for a second, and how about Shedeur Sanders? Like I know Travis Hunter is going to steal his votes and the praise, and they're probably going to split the votes. But Shedeur, I think has been more impressive than Travis Hunter.
Yeah,
That's that.
I
I
have his
might
stats
be.
shared. He's thrown for 2,880 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and he's a 74.9 QBR, 23rd in the country ranked.
So, and where's he ranked in yards? He's probably in the top 10 and everything or something.
Let me see that right now.
Yeah, like that's the problem I have. Like I know Travis Hunter is a phenomenal athlete and all that, but he doesn't have more he's what is he? Is he top 10 in receiving yards? Is he top 5? He's probably top 5 in receptions, but he's probably not 10 in receiving yards. I don't know what it is that you give Hunter the edge over Shedeur.
Yeah,
Like watching Shedeur. Yeah,
Shedeur Sanders started to cut you off as 6th in the country at passing.
okay, so yeah, like Shedeur's impressed. Like he's gone out and impressed, and his team, he's leading his team. He's technically, I would say, and the other thing is like Travis Hunter's missed a half here, a half there, etc. And I know he plays both ways. That's fine, but the defense is still giving up 30 points. Like they're still giving up a shit ton of points. Guess who needs to score the points for you to fucking because your defense isn't very good. So if you were that good on like for a defensive player to win it, for a guy to say, oh, he won it because of his defense, but he hasn't been that good on off. He's been good on offense, but he hasn't been great on offense. Like he's not the best receiver in the country statistically, and he doesn't have a shit ton of interceptions, or he has interceptions, but is he leading the country in interceptions? What is he giving me for me to give him the Heisman compared to his teammate that has clearly had to lead that offense because the defense gives up a ton of fucking points?
Yeah. So just to put it into perspective, like this is mind you, he is playing both defense as well, but he's 11th in the country in receiving.
In receiving yards.
By the way, yeah, in receiving yards, and by the way, T-Mac 2nd in the country. Just saying.
Yeah, no. That's a given. That's a given. So, that's the problem I have there with Hunter, and I think Hunter's going to take votes from Shedeur, which shouldn't be. And I think Shedeur's going to come out and they get Utah this week at home. Shedeur's going to have himself a game. We'll see Travis Hunter on the sideline at halftime because he's probably not going to play the second half because Utah's going to be super physical and they're going to run at his ass and fucking. You'll see it. I promise you.
Yeah.
For me, Shedeur's had to put this team on his back. Like they were down 13-0 at the end of the first quarter on Saturday. And who came back? Did the defense have any pick sixes? I don't think so. Travis Hunter's made plays. Shedeur, I think, is more deserving of Heisman votes than I think Travis Hunter is. Right now, if you ask me who the Heisman is, I still think it's Cam Ward because he had one bad half. I've seen Genty have a bad half. The problem is the bad half that Cam Ward had, he's the quarterback. And he did it against an ACC team. And this man had a bad half against fucking San Diego State.
Yeah. So just to present you the country, obviously the odds don't agree with you very much because Cam Ward has dropped from, and this is according to MGM Grand or MGM Bet. Travis Hunter is current odds is plus 100. Dillon Gabriel has shot up a lot, and it's kind of somebody that nobody is talking about at plus 350. Genty at plus 400, and then Cam Ward at plus 850.
Back in March, and if you go back to the two nobodies, back in March, I thought Dillon Gabriel would win the Heisman. And back in March, I think he was like maybe 8th or 9th in voting, but 8th and 9th in odds. Before the season started, I think by July or August, he was now the favorite. So I kind of had to go away from, and I always said Cam Ward was going to be an early season, but after watching his early season, I definitely think he was the Heisman. If that's the list I'm looking at right now, where it's Hunter, Gabriel, if I had a vote, my vote is for Dillon Gabriel. I think that. Oh yeah, yeah. You're the undefeated. You're the best team in the country. You're number one team in the country right now. And you know who does Oregon have left? I mean, I don't know what's left on their schedule, but you know you're the number one team in all the land, and you're the quarterback, and your stats have been good enough to win the Heisman. Might be a Heisman by default.
Yeah, they currently have Wisconsin and Washington left.
Yeah, how's that going to go?
Yeah,
I mean,
2-1,
he's probably going to throw.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he throws 8 or 9 touchdown passes in those games, I mean, he's got what, 2 games left only?
Yeah, two games left.
Yeah, so I mean, it's gonna be. I as of right now, I think it's Dillon Gabriel. Cam Ward's gonna have big weeks though coming up. I really believe that, and they need it because Miami's got to get back into the fucking to make it to their title game at this point. SMU and Clemson sit at 1-2, and I don't think Clemson's losing. Hopefully they do, but
for sure. But
I still don't believe Genty is the Heisman. I cannot give it to him. Like no exception for me to give it to him. That's my opinion. I'm on the complete opposite side of the country on this. I cannot give it to him. I just can't. I'm sorry. I can't do it because I've seen so many running backs over the years have phenomenal years for random schools. The kid Rashad Penny from San Diego State, Kevin Smith from Central Florida. Like those are just who's the other kid? I mean, it's just not you're playing nobodies at the end of the day. You really are. I know that's who your schedule is, but you're still playing nobodies. Like there's a reason that those teams don't get awarded playoff spots and they barely get ranked in the top 25. We should use that same theory for the Heisman. Like we really should.
I respectfully disagree, brother, but there was a controversial call over the weekend. The Utah Utes hung in there versus BYU and lost by 1 point. But just to show everybody what specifically happened on that play, zoom in here. Here we go. Oh, I guess that is not it, but they homered me, Rafa. They gave me.
It's a 4th and 10 play where there's a holding call, and there's a holding call on 4th and 10. I have more of a problem with the other call on 3rd and 1 when Utah had the ball and they get called back for holding, and it goes from 3rd and 1 to 3rd and 11. They get that first down there, and the game's over. But you know what? Even bad calls happen all the time. Major League Baseball and the NBA could never get a foul right if their life depended on it. College football refs are human, right? And so they're going to make mistakes. But for the Utah Utes and their great coach, who's overrated as fuck, but he was in the Pac-12, so we had to just give him all this praise because he was doing it against a soft-ass conference. And in fact, it was super soft. He made Caleb cry. That's how soft that's how soft they were in there. They didn't score a point in the second half. They didn't score a single point in the second half. If they get one field goal in that second half, the game's over. Like they were dominating that game. They were dominating that game. BYU put themselves in a spot to win it. Granted, 4th and 10 is not a spot you want from your own 9-yard line to try and win it, but it was a holding call. It is what it is. I had a bigger problem with the 3rd and 1 where the 3rd and 1 gets called back for holding after first down. That one was a bigger call for me, that 3rd and 1 holding call on offense. So
yeah, I agree with you. I refs have been very frustrating my entire football career, but at the end of the day, they fuck up and they fuck up, I think, often, more often than people realize. I know people are not fans of this. I think it would be more interesting than it should be like official, but I would love if the refs at least had the opportunity to have like a post game media. Like if they wanted to do it, if they wanted to explain themselves, not force them to, I think that they should have the opportunity to say, hey, this is why I called that. I don't think they should be forced, but if there should be open media, essentially, I think.
No, I don't think they should do that. I mean, they're not going to give you a reason why they called it. They're going to listen. If you had a referee actually just look for a hold on every play, there's a hold on the offensive line every fucking time. Like literally, like there's a hold down. There's illegal contact on defense. Probably 75% of dropbacks. Like there just always is. It's just some teams get it and some teams don't. And people are always going to say, "Oh, the Chiefs always get it." Well, I guess they do. Or the thing is, the difference with the Chiefs is that when they get it, they actually finish the game out. And so, but teams get the call. Some teams get the calls. And sometimes the ball bounces your way, and sometimes it doesn't. Refs make mistakes, but you cannot go 24 or 30 minutes of football and not get a fucking point in the second half. A game that you were dominating, 21-10. You were literally moving the ball all over the place. You were doing your job. You were dominating that game, and you didn't score a single point in the second half. Don't go out and blame the refs. Take a deep look at your head coach, who's cost you games. He cost you the game against Arizona when they drove down the field on the first two drives of the game from the 3-yard line, came back with 0 points. You had I don't remember what other game it was, the game against Arizona State. I mean, that your head coach has cost you at least 3 football games this year that I know of. You going 30 minutes without scoring a single point. It's not on the refs. It's not on the refs. You left it to the refs. And when you needed, and you couldn't make a play before, you left it to the refs, which is why you lost the game. You know, they make a mistake. It happens all the time. They made a mistake. It is what it is. And in my opinion, I don't think they made a mistake. I think it was a fucking holding. I think it was a holding. But
I agree. I thought it was holding as well.
I think it was holding. It was literally, you could see it. There's holding. There's illegal contact. There's all sorts of shit going on there. So, so for Utah fans to be upset about it or whatever, at the end of the day, you didn't score a single point in the second half. You've done this multiple times this year where you've struggled on offense, and it's bad decisions from Willingham all the way to quarterback coach, the offense, all the motherfuckers. Utah Utes, and please don't show up this weekend. Don't show up in Colorado.
No.
We need Colorado. College football needs Colorado to get into the Big 12. Don't fuck this up, Utah. Go home. Go home. Go right back home. Drive your ass right back
to your 5 wives.
Fly your ass back to fucking Salt Lake or Provo or whatever the fuck you're from. Just go back. Let fucking forfeit for Colorado. We need college football needs Colorado, and the Big 12 needs Colorado and BYU in the title game.
For sure. I second that motion. But last thing that I have on the regimen is Navy Tulane, game of the week. They are fighting for Army for that AAC championship. They fight this week for second place in the AAC. What is your take on the midshipmen?
So this is going to be, a great game. It's probably going to be the best game of the weekend. I mean, it's the game of the weekend, I think, with the most implications for a conference at this point, because after this, they really don't have anybody. And this is both teams, I guess, toughest task, I want to say. Right. But Navy needs this game. If Navy beats Tulane, Navy will now sit in that number 2 spot in the AAC behind Army, and which can potentially lead to an AAC championship game, Army Navy, and then we would get Army Navy the week after. And I think the AAC is going to look at this going after this year and kind of consider. And I don't know how you're going to be able to do it. I mean, with all the media that comes behind it and all the money I'm sure that's put behind Army Navy, but there's no way that Army Navy can play that final game of the year after the AAC title game going forward. Like I don't know.
Why not?
I don't know because it's this game. For example, let's say they play for the AAC title, and hypothetical. Let's go that Army's undefeated. That means that Army would have to beat Notre Dame next week. And by the way, Notre Dame gets a Virginia team this week at home, which they should absolutely demolish. Army gets to sit at home, relax, game plan for this game that's going to be held at Yankee Stadium next weekend. And Army can easily go in there. And by the way, let's not forget Army's quarterback. It should be in the Heisman talk as well. And I know he missed a game and he didn't look good last week. That 13-minute drive, 13-minute, 54-second drive, that should tell you something about how good Army is coached, how good they can run the ball, how smart of a team they are. That should tell you all of that on one drive. 13 minutes, 54 seconds to end the game, basically. But Army, think about this. Army's undefeated, and they go undefeated into that game. What is the meaning if Army wins that game? And Army ends undefeated after December 6th. Okay, they play that Friday night, which would be December 6th. Let's say Army's undefeated at that point, right then and there. And Boise State wins the Mountain West. Is Boise a better team than Army to get into that 12th spot? There's no fucking way. There's no way that Army's a better team than Navy. I mean, Army, that Boise would be better than Army. And even if you look at it, like, okay, Boise would have one loss to by 3 points to Oregon in the second week of the season. And when Oregon will probably be undefeated at that point. So, and that's how the committee's looking at it right now, because Boise's sitting at 12 and Army's sitting like at 20. Okay. But if Army beats Notre Dame, and I'm going to say right now, when Army beats Notre Dame next week and Army rolls into that AAC title game and they beat Navy or Tulane, you're going to tell me that you're not putting in Army at number 12? Let's say they run the playoff that next night. And I don't know when the final announcement is for the playoff. I don't know if it's the 7th. It should be the 8th, which is that Sunday after the conference championship game, after the conference championship weekend is done. On the 8th, do you put Army? Let's say you put in Army at 12. And now Army has to go and play Navy the next week. What is the meaning of the Army-Navy game for Army? If they lose that game, do they lose their playoff spot?
So I explained this to Eddie Money. There's a bunch of meaning. There's a huge meaning.
Well, no.
Let me explain it.
I know what you're going to say.
Right, but let me explain it for the people. Is that so? Army and Navy and Air Force play in a three-way competition for what's called the Commander-in-Chief's Trophy. This AAC championship game does not count for that Commander-in-Chief's Trophy. So yes, people can say, oh, it's bragging rights. Not really. It's for one of the most important trophies in all of college football. So they're playing that next week for that berth because both of them at this point have beat Air Force. So it is up to Army and Navy to beat each other in that final game of the year,
for the trophy,
secure that for the trophy. And just you are right. December 8th is the final ranking.
Okay, so I'm not talking about Army. Navy's obviously always huge, and this year obviously they both beat Air Force, so the game is even bigger because of the Commander-in-Chief Trophy. And a lot of people, if you guys don't understand, there's a lot of trophies that are played between rivals in season and that kind of go back and forth that people don't even know about. You know, you got Iowa State and Iowa, Minnesota. There's plenty of trophies that are exchanging sides and hands.
USC.
There's plenty of shit going on, right?
Yeah.
So, but what I'm saying is, let's say Army's undefeated, they win their game, and they go in on December 8th. The committee says, we're going to put Army at number 12. Army, you're at number 12. You're going to play number 5 Ohio State, or you're going to play number 5 Oregon. What happens the next week with Army Navy? What if Army loses that game to Navy?
It means nothing for their college football playoff ranking.
I'm
100% certain that Army Navy game after stands alone.
Now, let me ask you something. Do they take into consideration that Army will have another game in hand? Will have another game to play, and let's say Navy loses his game to Tulane. I mean, how does the committee look at Army? That extra game that they have pending? Do they bring it into play, or do they just say we're going to look at what we have so far? They beat Notre Dame, they're fucking in, because that's what I believe is going to happen. I
Here's
believe
what I think happens, and I think it's going to upset the entire nation. I think that with a Heisman contender in Boise State, I think if Boise State runs the table and wins, since the committee right now is telling you that they think more of Boise State with Ashton Jeanty than they do of Army with their undefeated record. So I think if both teams run the table, and I think if Ashton Jeanty is still top 3 in the Heisman odds, I think that they pick Boise State and Ashton Jeanty over an undefeated Army.
Well, I'm going to tell you why they think that today, but they won't think that next Tuesday. They think that, or the following Tuesday. They think that today because Army hasn't played anyone worth anything, right?
Right.
But they play a number 10 or number 9 ranked playoff team in Notre Dame next week. So what you're going to tell me that if Army's undefeated and will have a top 10 win against a team that the committee has currently ranked in the top 10 and will have them ranked in the top 10 for probably the first 3 playoffs because they were ranked last week, they'll be ranked tomorrow, and the week after they win this week at home against Virginia, they will be ranked in the top 10 for the first 3 straight playoff appearances. Army beats Notre Dame. There is no way that the committee can tell themselves to leave. There's no way they can leave Army out after beating Notre Dame and going undefeated. Their win is against Notre Dame. Boise's claim to fame is a 3-point loss to a team that wasn't peaking at all the week before. They needed a touchdown with 3 minutes left to beat Idaho by 10. So that was the week before.
I understand. So here's what I'll say. And I agree with you. I would much rather see an undefeated group of 5 Army team than a 1-loss group of 5 Boise State. I would say this. I understand it was a completely different situation, but the committee last year set a precedent that there are no precedents, that there is no limitations. And with the 12th team this year, I can see that particularly if Ashton Jeanty goes into college, the last ranking on December 8th, if he's number 1 in the Heisman odds, they're not leaving him out. I'm letting you know right now, they're not leaving him out.
They're not considering Vegas odds, I'm sure, before doing their picks.
Oh, I disagree. I guarantee you an answer if Boise State's picked over is Ashton Jeanty is going to New York.
Let's see how. I'm sure Jeanty's going to New York. There's no doubt about that. I just don't think he's going to be on the podium. But we need to see how, if Army beats Notre Dame, and these are all hypotheticals, right? I think they will. When they beat Notre Dame, that will be, what is Boise's claim to fame at this point? They don't have a signature win. They don't have a signature win. They had a signature loss to a team that lost. Fucking, if we do the rankings and Idaho was undefeated, they would have a signature loss because they lost by 10 to the number 1 team in the land in week 1, a team that wasn't playing well to start the season. So that is their claim to fame, and Army's would be a win against Notre Dame. The other thing that everybody keeps bringing up, Florida State from last year, it's not even close to the same thing because it was easy for you to leave Florida State out without Jordan Travis. They were already, it wasn't like they were number 1. No, they were number 4. And you knew that a not great performance by their backup was not going to get them a playoff spot. And we knew it. And on the 2 nobodies, we said it. For the minute Travis went down, they were done. So, and then the committee showed you that Georgia actually showed everyone that the committee didn't make a mistake in leaving them out. But when you have a team with a signature top 10 win within the final 3 weeks of the season and is still undefeated, then that's a different story. But we can't talk about it we talked about it, but we won't know about it until it actually happens. And that's next week, Army, Notre Dame in Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. That's going to be a doozy. And hopefully we get a game. Hopefully, I love the playoff idea. And everyone fucking loves it. If you love college football or you love football, you should love the college football playoff, a 12-team gig now.
Yeah.
And you should love for Army to win this game against Notre Dame
Yes.
and make it even more interesting. And the
Yes.
other thing it's going to be telling is when the rankings come out tomorrow, is Army in the top 18? I think if Army's in the top 18 and the committee could maybe consider something there where, hey, we're going to consider them. If they're in the top 18, it's easy for them to jump them to all the way to 12 with a win at Notre Dame, with a win against Notre Dame. I think it's time will tell, obviously, and that's great about football that we can to week, and we get to talk shit on a week to week, and next weekend is going to be telling for a ton of teams, for Notre Dame, for Army, for Indiana, for Ohio State. I mean, it's going to be an exciting couple of weeks coming up, and this is the best college football has been in a long time, man.
Ever.
Well, I don't
As
know.
far as competitiveness, like we have never, I would argue that we have never looked this far, obviously because we have 12 teams, but we have never looked this far. But still, we have never, even if, okay, Rafa, even if there was 4-team playoff, we have never looked this far. We can say that 6 or 7 or 8 teams could buy in, are buying into a national championship or national championship type of contender teams, I would argue.
This year, if we only had 4 playoff teams, we would probably just have Oregon. We'd have 3 Big Ten teams probably. We'd have Oregon, Ohio State. I mean, and find me another team. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Penn State.
Here's the issue. So I'm gonna go ahead and share this, the rankings. So here's the issue. As I'm seeing right now, if we zoom in a little bit, I'm seeing Miami is, if we go all the way down, as far down as SMU, I think SMU is looking at a 14 playoff saying, I think I can get in. I think Miami's looking like they can get in. Notre Dame, Tennessee, Penn State, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, not Washington State, but that's right there. That's 6 or 7 teams. There's like, hey, I think
but if we go back to but if we go back to the criteria that they've used for years past, the teams that are in there, like we've seen years past where Bama with 2 losses almost got in, and we thought they should have gone in. That was the year that TCU got in. That was a shit show. It was a fucking embarrassment. So if we just went from the previous year's criteria and we looked at the 4 teams, it's definitely Oregon, Penn State, Texas, and Ohio State. Today, that's the 4 that would be.
Yeah, now, but the argument is how many teams are looking into the 4 playoff at this point. Mind you, this is what, week 12? Week 12, we usually know 5 teams that are really playoff teams, but I'm looking at it. Indiana's undefeated. Tennessee's 1 loss. Notre Dame has 1 loss. You looking farther down, Miami, SMU are in a Power 5, Power 4 conference. So you're there. That's 6 or 7 teams right there. I don't think, all I'm saying is this far into the season.
Oh, no. This is the best shit. This is the best shit ever. This is the best shit we've ever had, and hopefully they get it to 16. This is the best shit we've ever seen. College football should have done this years ago. They finally got it right. What all the fans thought was common fucking sense, they had to put their own NCAA twist on it, as usual. But this is the best we've gotten for college football. Everyone should be excited. This is the shit you should be watching. The NFL has been an atrocious product. The best player in the league has looked horrendous. He was shitting in his pants with a second left when the ball was snapped. He's jumping around like a little girl after the Chiefs defense blocked, the special teams blocked that kick. The
11
NFL
touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
The NFL's best player has looked absolutely atrocious, and they are undefeated. Okay, he's looked horrible, and they are undefeated. It shows you the product. You can think greatness, and yes, he's great. He hasn't looked great. The defense has been above. They're probably the best defense in the league, but they're not the 86 Bears. They're not the 2000 Ravens. They've been great, but they're not those defenses. And they're undefeated. The Bills have looked great, but they got their ass whooped in Baltimore. Baltimore's looked great. They have 3 bad losses. The Lions have looked great. They had a terrible first half yesterday. Played great defense in the second half. I mean, but after that, We gave you a list last week. If you are not watching college football, if you have one day, guys, and I know there's a lot of you that are good husbands that don't use your voice, so your wife only lets you watch football on Sundays. Switch a week and watch on Saturdays. Switch a week, watch the college football start Friday night. Get home from work, kick the boots off, watch Friday night, take it all the way up to Saturday night. The level the games. The games are great. And in you had a great game up until like 10:15 Saturday night with BYU and Utah.
Yep.
And you had a great one starting at 9 a.m. There's great games from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturdays. If you got only one day, and you know who you are, men out there, you probably voted for Kamala. So if your wife only lets you watch football on one day, it's probably whites for Kamala. Switch to Saturday. You need to watch this. This is the best season of college football we've ever had. You need to tune in, check it out. Now, if you're a normal man, like my buddies and I, we watch football Monday through Sunday. We even watch the MAC.
Yep.
We watch the MAC, the WAC, and all of that on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. All right.
And we're talking about it in the group chat. You guys,
we're talking about it. Yes.
I wish people could see the group chat, bro, on 3 p.m. on Wednesday. We're sitting arguing about fucking Western, the blind school of the deaf, and the directional schools.
Yeah, because they were 21-point underdogs.
Right.
Like it's college football is at an all-time high. It is peaking. It is phenomenal. And the thing is that the NFL has been really, really, really bad. Like imagine a team like the Texans, who everybody was high on. They were phenomenal. 23-7 at halftime. They don't score a single point in the second half. Yes, and I just talked about Utah not scoring a point in the second half. The game still ended by 1 point, and Utah's been atrocious. Utah's been atrocious. They've lost their quarterback for now the 17th season in a row, it feels like. So, but anyways, tune in every Tuesday. Check us out on YouTube. We're not live yet. But tune in to the Two Nobodies podcast on Wednesdays, live 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We take your comments. You can talk shit about us. Yes, we're fat and stupid, but we do love talking about football. We talk about gambling. We cover a little bit of NBA, baseball news, etc. We have no filter. It's no holds barred. Wednesday nights, the Two Nobodies podcast on YouTube. Check us out.
At 6 p.m. PST, baby. We're going to see y'all then. Wow.
Let's do it.